Hello, coaches. It is Allison Hendrickson, your International Training Director, and I am so excited to get to see you. And hopefully, you guys are doing well. I know I've lost count of how many days of quarantine it has been, but hope is on the horizon, and it looks like we'll all be able to start congregating in person soon and not just via Zoom. Although I am very thankful for technology these days that we can remain connected even while we are putting safe practices in place to keep people as healthy as we can. So our topic for this month is going to be, let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll jump into the PowerPoint that is attached to this email for you. Our topic for this month for our coach training calls is 4 keys for engaging presentations. And I have been getting quite a few emails and text messages, phone calls, a lot of different conversations with coaches that have had quite a few different questions on how do I be more engaging in my presentations? How do I prepare? How do I plan for the amount of time that I have? I want to make sure that I am totally ready to go. And so that is why we're having this topic for this month. I realize we have a lot of information, or I've packed a lot of information into this presentation. And I realize that we have a lot of coaches that are really on a broad spectrum of how much experience they have in presenting. We have some coaches that are really new, that this is a totally new experience for them in standing in front of an audience and giving a presentation. We have some coaches that have been presenting for many years, and lots of people that are in the middle of that too. So I'm hoping with the topic that we have this month and the amount of information in here that we'll be able to really hit a lot of the different types of questions that coaches on every level will have. So as you're going through seniors and masters, don't feel that you have to read your presenter notes. They are just there to get you started with some of the kind of background thoughts I had as I was putting this PowerPoint together. So please feel free to share your own experiences, add to the list, but I would encourage you, if possible, after every slide, go ahead and pause and ask for feedback from your coaches. Find out what are some of the questions. Oh, there goes a book falling off my shelf. At least it didn't fall on my computer. But find out from your coaches, what are some of the questions that they have about presenting? What are some of the things that they have struggled with or been challenged by? Have them share their experiences, answer each other's questions, and also add to this list. And if you find that a lot of different types of questions keep surfacing, please write them down and send them to me. And also remember to record your calls this month and make sure that you're sending them in. And that way I can listen through them and really make sure that we are crafting our monthly calls and topics to really serve each of our coaches the very best that we possibly can. So as you're going through also with this, please make sure that you're in that slideshow mode so that your coaches aren't reading your notes along with you while you're on Zoom. And you may want to practice that ahead of time if that's something that has been a challenge for you in the past. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and contact your master coach, or feel free to ask me if you get stuck on any of those too. All right, so let's jump in. I'm going to stick to the presenter notes that I wrote for you, but again, outside of those major points, feel free to put it all in your words, and you don't have to follow in my actual notes at all. I just wanted to give you as much information as you may need or want, and maybe a little extra information too. All right, so let's start out thinking about engaging presentations. Think of your favorite musician, the one that really moved you to the core of who you were. Was it the perfection of the composer's arrangement or how shiny that musician's instrument was that touched your soul? I would venture a guess that it wasn't. What really moves us isn't the technique, but it's the musician's application of what they worked so hard to learn in that practice room all by themselves. Their passion, their vulnerability, they're all in commitment to their performance. They were able to reach across the divide of time and space, and they connected with your heart and not just your brain. So as a presenter, our own invitation is to be able to do the same. As we're going through, as we're giving life languages presentations, as we're coaching, as we're meeting with and serving clients, we want to learn how to use our tools as effectively as we can. We want to be able to use space, the way that we deliver, interaction, our pace, our tone, and we want to practice, practice, practice until that becomes just second nature for us. So being enthusiastic, being committed to your audience, all of this is going to help them come along with you on this journey and buy into what it is that we're trying to give them of that gift of healthy and effective character-driven communication. Our goal is so that we can hone our craft so that we amplify our message instead of getting in the way of what that message is. So today we're going to look at 4 keys for engaging presentations. And there's lots and lots more keys that can go along with this, but these are some of the most important to get us started. And this is a lot of information all at once, but our goal is to give you that information so that you can take it home, study, and apply it at your level of experience and also for the type of audience that you're serving. So the first key for engaging presentations is the word plan. So what do we want to plan? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Number 1, we want to plan our schedule. So when you're giving a seminar, how much time do you have? Are you doing a 1-hour overview? Are you doing a 4-hour seminar, 6 hours? Are you doing an 8-hour seminar, maybe over multiple different days? That's the number 1 thing we want to figure out so you know how to fit in all the different pieces of your plan into that schedule. So think about within your schedule, your introduction. What type of introduction is appropriate for your audience? What is a story that you could use that's personal or for one of your clients that you can hook your audience, grab their attention, and create that relational foundation that you can build on throughout the presentation? How much time does your introduction take? Then we move on to each of the 7 languages. How much time do you have for each language? And how does that fit into that 1, 4, 6, 8 or other amount of time in your schedule? Think about your stories. If you're using stories within your seminar, which stories fit this particular audience? Are you correctly attributing the pure form of those language attributes to those stories? And are you differentiating between, hey, we just looked at these amazing languages under a microscope in pure form. Here's a story that gives an example of this language in application in real life. Also, we want to think about our activities. What hands-on activities will you be doing and where will they fit into your presentation? How long will it take to execute these activities with the size of the group that you're working with? Also consider a Q&A time. Are you going to take time for a Q&A with the whole group? Are you going to do it after each language, only at the end? Are you going to curate those questions by maybe handing out note cards and asking your audience to write down those questions on cards, and then you choose which questions and which order to answer them at your convenience? If you're doing your seminar via Zoom, are you going to ask people to only ask questions via the chat? How are you going to handle resistance? When you're asked of a question that you don't know the answer to, what will be your response to that? And here's a suggestion that has worked really well for me over the years. If someone asks me a question that I don't know the answer to, I say, that's a great question that no one's asked me before. I'm going to write that down and I'll get back to you with the answer. And I have had a great response to that every single time that I've used it. In your schedule, where are you going to have breaks and have time for refreshments? How long will those breaks be? Where will there be coffee or water or refreshments? Are you providing those? Are the people who are hosting the seminar providing those? If the seminar or workshop is going over lunch, are you going to go out for lunch? Will the attendees be bringing their lunch with them? Will you be having lunch brought in? If you're going out for lunch, have you allowed enough time in the schedule for attendees to go out, order, enjoy their lunch, and then return on time? One suggestion that I've had that has worked great for me with self-hosted seminars is I'll collect the lunch payment as part of the attendees' seminar registration, have them choose what they want at that time from a limited selection, and then I'll have that lunch delivered at that time just to be able to save that time. Next, we want to think about our props. What props are we going to be using for each language? Are you going to be using, glasses with different colors? Are you going to be passing out candies? Are there going to be supplies that you need for some of your different games and activities? Next, think about product. Do you have a product table available? Is that appropriate in the situation? Do you want to purchase mugs, communication IQ books that you can make available? Do you have workbooks and pens, success communication keys, your business cards ready? Are you the one that is responsible for printing the attendees' profiles and workbooks? Is the organization doing that, or is it the attendees' responsibility to bring their own profile to the workshop or seminar? And finally, what about technology? Everybody's favorite part, right? Is there someone who's going to be running sound for you during your seminar? Do they have the correct dongles or the HDMI cords or other connecting parts that you'll need to run your presentation? And then of course, make sure you get there early enough that you can test that when you get there. Make sure that you've checked ahead of time. Is there power within reach of your charging cord for your laptop if you need that? Are you going to be using a laser pointer to be able to point to different things on your slides or to advance your slides? So those are all of the basic foundations for our first point with effective presentations, and that is plan. Number 2 is practice. What are some of the things that we want to practice as we are preparing for our presentation? Number 1 is, do you know where all of the PowerPoint or Keynote builds are in your presentation? Have you practiced those enough to be comfortable with each of the builds and know how to also go forward or back if you want to repeat a point, or if you've accidentally clicked something a little bit too fast and have to go back to be able to complete that slide? Make sure that you are practicing your presenter notes until you've really internalized that content. In fact, I would especially suggest that you memorize your introduction so that you feel confident while you move past any of those nerves when you first get up on stage and you're presenting. And with those presenter notes, are you able to go through them so it doesn't look like you're sitting here and you're leaning forward and reading those presenter notes, or potentially even losing your place as you're going through? Next, we have the timing. If you get behind, do you have a plan as you're practicing for where you could spend less time, maybe skip over sections or shorten stories to make sure that you are able to stay to your schedule? Think about each of your activities. Practice those activities with friends and family until you're comfortable leading the participants with clear directions. And while on the topic of activities, let's make sure that we're making those activities a safe place for your participants to try and also fail. So are they making mistakes by potentially misappropriating pure form attributes from one language onto another, or is it just about new terminology? Plan out ahead of time and practice. What are questions that you can ask to help them discover that for themselves? Questions like, I wonder if, can be ones that are non-threatening and can help create that safe space for them to try. And then finally, we have to come back to tech again. If you're presenting via Zoom, have you practiced muting or unmuting attendees, sharing your screen, set up your slides so that you can see your own presenter notes? And then if your tech doesn't work, do you have a backup plan? Have you printed out your slides with your presenter notes? Do you know how to start your presentation and show your presenter notes to yourself as you're going through and practicing all those different aspects of tech, so that if something doesn't go quite right when you're actually giving your presentation, it doesn't throw you? Number 3 is present. So when you're presenting, that comes from a prepared life. And as we all know, what you see in a seminar or a workshop is accumulation of hours and hours and weeks and months and sometimes even years of preparation to become a good presenter. Find your voice, be you, and discover what is it that makes you unique as a presenter. We're not looking for coaches who are cookie cutters of every other coach out there. We want you to really discover who you are and the strength of your own voice. So is what makes you unique your passionate energy? Is it that clinical skill? Is it the sense of humor? If you're not sure, ask people who know you and really hone in at what makes your voice special. When you're on stage, own that space and use that space well. Get out from behind the podium and move around. Really take a look at your body language. Are you projecting calm and confidence, or are you projecting nervous energy or being unsure? And on that note, try to channel that nervous energy into excitement. Even the best presenters are going to feel nervous, but the key to doing that successfully is channeling it into excitement and being aware of what your body and your voice does and how you respond to that. Never turn your back on your audience. And finally, connect with your audience and get them up and moving if possible. That's why we're trying to bring in more and more of different types of activities and hands-on learning situations. Be comfortable with silence and make sure that you're not using fillers. Just like I just repeated that word right there. Don't use fillers. It's been a long day, but I'm gonna try that again. Don't use fillers. There we go. So if you lose your train of thought or you lose your spot in your notes, just pause. Or you can even make light of it, just kind of like I just did earlier on in that sentence. A pause to you might feel like a lifetime, but to your audience is just a moment. And on that note, use pauses for impact. They can be something that powerfully can bring your audience's attention back to you. Take a look at your pace and tone. Do you talk really fast when you're nervous or excited? Do you have enough inflection in your tone to connect with and engage with your audience? As you continue, gauge your audience. Are they engaged? Is your pace and tone, your stories, or your detail appropriate? If they seem like you're losing their attention, what do you need to do to bring that attention back around? Is it tell another story? Is it take a pause and do a hands-on activity? This is a great time to be able to really not just stay in the presentation, but go, is my audience coming along with me? Do you have your props and activities ready so you can access them quickly when needed? And finally, enthusiasm. Be you, but be you enthusiastically. So no matter where influencer is in your descending order of life languages, pull that up when you're presenting. If you are passionate and excited about your content, your audience will be too. And if you can connect with them and engage, they'll do the same with you, especially if you're presenting via Zoom and not in person. It just takes a lot more energy. So pull up that energy and engage. And number 4 is critique. And this is one of the more challenging ones, but the ones that if you talk to the greatest presenters and speakers out there, they will say that this is the part that really changed their life. So number 1 with critique is ask for feedback. Get feedback in seminar surveys using SurveyMonkey or some other type of survey software. Send out follow-up emails and ask for both positive and constructive feedback. Make sure you're reading through those when you're in a time when you're ready to receive it though, and not maybe when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Next is critique yourself. So I would encourage you, as hard as it is, and I know how hard this is, video your presentations and then watch them back and critique yourself. How was your pace and tone? How was your use of space? How did you engage with the audience? Did you hear a lot of filler words like or ah or repetition? Did you have phrases that you just used too much? How did you use your props, your stories, your activities? How did you interact with your attendees? So go through that critique and write down some of the top ways that you're like, this is a way that I could really improve the way that I'm presenting. And next and final on this slide is choose one skill at a time to focus on. It's easy to have a huge list of things that you're like, oh, I could have done all of these things better, but choose one at a time and focus on that until you feel confident. And at the same time, make sure you're finding things to really celebrate each time about how you improved from the last time in the way that you were presenting. And finally, last but not least, this is the freebie. Buy 4, get 1 free. Have fun. Presenting is a craft and a skill that even the best presenters can improve on. And remember that your goal is to serve your audience. And the better that you can become at presenting, the more tools that your audience will walk away from each seminar with to be able to apply to their life and really change their life. So remember that analogy of the musician from the very beginning. The impact of their performance was from their practice off stage in the practice room, honing that craft and their commitment. And then once they got on that stage, they were able to be fully them, to be passionate, and to be able to deliver that beautiful music to the audience. So I want to encourage each of you as you're going out to take each of these different pieces and to really practice them and apply them so that you're serving your coaches well, you're serving your audience well, and keep practicing as you're presenting. All right, thanks guys so much. Looking forward to speaking with you soon.